आज के क्लास में हम लोग केमिकल इक्वेशन के बारे में पढ़ेंगे। केमिकल इक्वेशन एक्चुअली इट इज द मेथड ऑफ रिप्रेजेंटिंग अ केमिकल रिएक्शन और केमिकल चेंज। नाउ suppose two substances are combined together to form a new substance, then this is called chemical change or the process is called chemical reaction. Initially we have represented elements with the help of their symbols, compounds with the help of their formulae, molecules. Similarly, here a chemical change, a chemical reaction is represented with the help of chemical equation. So what is a chemical equation? A chemical equation is the representation of a chemical change, chemical reaction with the help of symbol and the formulae of the substances taking part or involved in it. Involved in it means that is the substance is taking part and the substance produced. So what is the chemical equation? The representation of a chemical reaction or change with the help of the symbol and formulae formulae is the plural word, formulae of the substances involved is called chemical equation, So this is the definition for chemical equation. Now you see that there are some substances which take part in the reaction. They are called reactants, and the substances which are obtained at the end of the reaction is known as product. Now students, while writing a chemical equation, we write the reactants on the left side separated by plus sign. Similarly, products are written on the right side and they are also separated by plus sign. And finally, we put an arrow between reactant and products, marking that such substances are converted into the new substances. Like, for example, suppose we take example as a statement, we can say, that is, suppose we take sodium reacts with water to produce sodium hydroxide and hydrogen gas. This is the chemical reaction, description of chemical reaction or chemical change. Now, what are the reactants? Reactants: sodium plus water gives sodium hydroxide plus hydrogen gas. Now this is written to represent the reaction, but this is called word equation. This is called word equation. This is the word equation. Now, in order to write a chemical equation, we should use symbol and the formulae of the substances, like sodium plus water, H2O. Now the products are sodium hydroxide plus hydrogen. So now this is the chemical equation. Now these are called reactants. These are called reactants and these are called products. So if we have to write a chemical equation, then this should be studied, that reactants are written on the left side, products are written on the right side, and if there are more than one reactant or products, then there should be plus sign between them, separating them, and arrow is placed between the reactants and products. This arrow represents that these substances are changing into these substances. So this is the method of writing a chemical equation. Now clear, student? Now you see, in a chemical reaction there may be one reactant and two or more products, two reactants and one products, two reactants, two products, and so on. It depends upon the type of chemical reaction. Like, suppose we take some examples. Like, first, suppose one reactant and two products. Suppose we take one reactant and two products. Like, suppose we take calcium carbonate. If it is heated, it gives calcium oxide plus CO2. Now here there is one reactant and two products. Now similarly, suppose we take two reactants and one product. Suppose this time we take CaO plus H2O gives CaOH whole twice. That is, calcium oxide reacts with water to give calcium hydroxide. So student, this time two reactants have combined to give you a single product. Now take one more example. Two reactants and two products. Now suppose we take, there is an example of suppose zinc oxide plus H2SO4. This time zinc oxide reacted with sulfuric acid, this is sulfuric acid, then it gives ZnSO4 plus H2O. So these are the two reactants and there are the two products. Take one more example for this. Suppose we take silver nitrate plus HCl. It gives AgCl plus HNO3. So in these cases you see, that is, there are two reactants giving two products. There may be many other parts also. There may be more than two reactants giving several products. There may be a single reactant giving more than two products. So there are different types of chemical reactions. Now students, here we see that in a chemical reaction, if we just write the symbol and formula of reactant and products, but if the number of atoms of different elements on the reactant side is not equal to the number of atoms of different element on the product side, then this equation is called a skeletal equation. A skeletal equation or unbalanced equation. So suppose we write here a skeletal or unbalanced equation. in this type of equation, the number of atoms of different elements on the reactant side is not equal to the number of atoms on the number of atoms of different elements on the product side. Then this type of chemical equation is called unbalanced equation or skeletal equation. Suppose, for example, we just write Na plus H2O gives NaOH plus H2. Now in this part you see, that is, on the reactant side there is one sodium, on the product there is one sodium. Here there is one oxygen, but the hydrogen is 2 atom on reactant side, and on the product side it is 3. It is not equal, so it is a skeletal equation, it is unbalanced equation. Then we need to balance the equation. That is, then what is balanced equation? Balanced equation, the equation in which the number of atoms of different elements on the reactant side is equal to the number of atoms of elements on the product side. Now the question arises that if this chemical equation is given, then why should we balance it? Why is the equation balanced? Now there is simple answer: to obey the principle of conservation of matter, which we have studied in previous classes. Principle of conservation of matter states that matter is neither created nor destroyed. It obeys the law of conservation of mass or matter. Means, whatever may be the mass on the reactant side, there must be present on the product side. Whatever may be the number of atoms on the reactant side, that must be present on the product side. So, an equation is balanced. To obey the principle of conservation of matter or mass, which states that the matter is neither created nor destroyed. It states that matter is neither created nor destroyed. So this is the principle of, this is the reason due to which an equation should be balanced. So take this example again. Na plus H2O gives NaOH plus H2. Now you see, here number of sodium atom is equal, number of oxygen atom is equal, but the number of hydrogen atom on this side 3, on this side this is 2. How can it be balanced? Now you see here, That is, if there is hydrogen 2 atom, it is even number. On this side there is odd. So suppose this is even, but here it is odd. So we make it even also by keeping here 2. Now, but now we see that there are 2 oxygen atoms. So we write 2 here. At the same time, there is 2 sodium atoms. So we write here. So now the equation is balanced. Here on this side, both sides you see, there will be 2 sodium atom, 2, hydrogen 4, oxygen 2. On this side also, sodium 2, hydrogen 2 from here and 2 from here, 4, and oxygen 2. So now the equation is balanced. So students, a chemical equation must be balanced according to the principle of conservation of matter or principle of conservation of mass. Clear, student? So this was a balanced chemical equation. Now, as we have studied about symbols and formulae, that is how are they useful to us, what are their significances. Similarly, here we also have to study, that is, what are the information conveyed by the chemical equation. Now, information conveyed by a chemical equation. What are the informations given by it? First, it tells about the substances involved in the reaction. Means, what are the substances taking part, what are the reactants, and what are the products. Second, it tells the number of molecules of substances, number of molecules of different substances involved in the reaction. Now, third, a chemical equation also states that what is the mass of reactant and what is the mass of the product. That is, it also tells the amount of different substances on reactant and product side. Means, what is the mass of these substances taking part in a chemical reaction. Now, as well as you can also write that it also tells us, or that is, it also conveys the principle of conservation of mass. So it verifies principle of conservation of mass in a balanced equation. So these are some of the basic informations given by a chemical equation. For example, suppose we take one example, like suppose we take example C plus O2 gives CO2. Now you see, first point, it tells about the substances involved, that is carbon and oxygen combine, react to produce carbon dioxide. So the substances involved are known now. Next, it tells the number of molecules of different substances. Like you see here, 1 mole or 1 atom of carbon reacts with 2 atoms of oxygen or 1 molecule of oxygen to form 1 molecule of carbon dioxide. Next, it tells the amount of different substances. Like you see here, 12. Suppose this its atomic mass is 12, so we take 12. This is 12 gram. This is 16 into 2, that is 32 gram. And here 12 plus 16 into 2, that is 44 gram. So it tells that 12 gram of carbon reacts with 32 gram of oxygen to give 44 gram of carbon dioxide. Hence, on the reactant side there is 44 gram, on the product side there is 44 gram. So it also verifies principle of conservation of mass or matter. So students, these were some of the informations regarding a chemical equation. Now, we have to study here, that is how is the chemical equation balanced? Balancing of chemical equation. Now, there are several methods given in higher classes in your books, like heat and trial method, partial equation method, ionic equation method, frequency method, and so on. In this part, we will just study about heat and trial methods. Other methods will be studied by you in higher classes, because those methods are used up only when you will be able to know or explain the mechanism of the reaction. Now this is the beginning stage, so you are unable to know these things, so these methods will be used later on. Finally, at the end, I will also say you that all these methods are required to be studied. Even heat and trial method, some smaller equations or which require simpler numbers to balance, can be easily balanced by heat and trial method. But even I say, I always recommend you that keep on practicing the equations, because while writing in an examination, when you go to balance the chemical equation, now if any time, if suppose due to hurry, suppose you get confused, then it will take much more time, and then you will not be able to answer all the questions in a given time. So keep on practicing by writing the equations such that you can directly answer them. So balancing of equation. Balancing of equation. Balancing of equation, just I have mentioned here, that is I will use heat and trial method. Heat and trial method does not has any definite rule. Just you keep on trying, looking on reactant and product side, comparing the number of atoms of different elements, and then try to balance them. It is similar to balancing or equating the mass of two different substances by keeping on two pans of a beam balance. But in beam balance, sometimes when one material becomes excess, you take it out, some part of it can be taken out, but while balancing the chemical equation, you always keep on adding. Means Like you see. Suppose heat and trial method. First, the equation is Cu plus H2SO4 gives CuSO4 plus SO2 plus H2O. Now, students, here we see that in this part, what is the first step? While practicing, that is while you are learning, then you can follow the certain steps, and later on it will be easier for you. So what should be done first? First of all, write the number of atoms on the reactant side and on the product side. Here, copper 1, hydrogen 2, sulfur 1, oxygen 4 on the product side. Copper 1, hydrogen 2, sulfur 1 and 1, 2, oxygen 4 and 2, 6 and 1, 7. Now you see, the number of atoms of copper and hydrogen are same on both sides, so it does not require to be balanced. But first part, sulfur on this side is 1 and on this side it is 2. So here it should be balanced. We can write 2 on this part. So Cu plus H2SO4, CuSO4 plus SO2 plus H2O. So first of all, balance this one. On this side there is 2 sulfur, on this side there is 1 sulfur, so put 2 here. Now you see. Again come to other part. Now the number of atoms of hydrogen, on this side there will be 4. But on this side there is only 2. So now balance the number of hydrogen atoms again. So you can place here or you can multiply it by 2. So place it here by 2. As a result, now your equation, balanced equation is Cu plus 2H2SO4 gives CuSO4 plus SO2 plus 2H2O. Now the equation is balanced. So this is the first equation which we have balanced on the basis of heat and trial method. Now take another example. Suppose we take potassium iodide is reacted with hydrogen peroxide. The product is potassium hydroxide and iodine. Now follow the same method. Now on this side potassium is 1. Here also potassium 1. Iodine 1. Iodine. Here it is 2. Hydrogen 2. On this side hydrogen is 1. Oxygen. Here is 2. Oxygen. On this side it is 1. Now you see, this is balanced already. Need not require to be disturbed here till now. Hydrogen on this side, come for hydrogen. You can take another part also. Potassium 1, here 2. So you can balance the iodine now. So here it is 2. So now place 2 here. Now you see, potassium will be 2 on this side now. That is 2 Ki plus H2O2 gives KOH plus I2. But now you see here, that is on this side there is 2 potassium. On this side there is 1 potassium. So now the potassium is balanced. Potassium is balanced here by putting 2. Now again you see, this time oxygen is on this side 2, oxygen on right side also 2. So your equation is now balanced. Equation has been completely balanced. So what should be written again? 2 Ki plus H2O2 gives 2KOH plus I2. So this type of chemical equation is now balanced. So students, you can take further more examples to balance, and again I say, if there is some complex equation which is not easily balanced by heat and trial method, then just I suggest you to learn the equation at that present stage. You should not go to balance and learn for the all methods which will be discussed or studied in higher classes, because again I tell you that all those methods are studied to balance. They are method of balancing. They may be useful, but for the examination point of view, you must keep on practicing the different types of equations such that you can directly answer them. Students, now we have studied about a chemical equation and what is unbalanced, balanced chemical equation, as well as we have also studied that how to balance and what will be useful to you for the examination purpose to increase your knowledge. Now, but there are some limitations of a chemical equation. Limitations means drawback, demerits. Then there is not that is just when we write simple equations, there may be some demerits for it. And what are these demerits which can be solved by us? So it does not tell us first the physical states of reactants and products. Means whether the reactants are solid, liquid or gas is not given in the equation. Now second, it does not tell us the rate at which the reaction is taking place. Means whether a reaction is taking place at a faster rate or slower rate, it is explosive or it is not taking at the proper rate such that we can have sufficient products yield of the reaction, is not represented in the equation. Next, it does not tell us whether the heat is absorbed or released in the reaction. Means it does not tell us whether the reaction is exothermic or endothermic. Means whether we have to supply heat energy, whether it absorbs energy or whether it is releasing energy, is not exhibited by it. Now further we can write here, that is a chemical reaction, physical state of reactant products, rate at which the reaction is taking place, whether the heat is absorbed or released in the reaction. Similarly, it does not tell us about the concentration of reactants and products. Next, the product is whether soluble or insoluble in aqueous solution medium of reaction. So these are some of the points which are not informed by the chemical equation, but we can make a chemical equation more informative by using all these things. For example, to indicate whether it is solid, liquid or gas, we can use S for solid, L for liquid and G for gas. Or suppose we can make it informative. We can make it informative. How is that? Suppose in first case, suppose we say that, suppose here it is zinc plus HCl. Now it gives ZnCl2 plus H2. Now we can write here solid. Now it is not liquid, but it is in aqueous solution. So we write here aqueous. This is again solid and this is gas. So we can write gas, or we can use this symbol to represent the gas also. So first thing is mentioned. Second, about the concentration. Now in such equations, this should be dilute. So we should write here whether the given acid or acid taken in the reaction is concentrated or dilute. Next, suppose in another example, AgNO3 plus HCl gives AgCl plus HNO3. Now again, the two reactants should be in aqueous solution. Now it is again, this is dilute acid, we can write here. This is insoluble, and if it is insoluble product, then it is called precipitate. And we need not require to write like this, but if you put down arrow, then down arrow represents precipitate, up arrow represents gaseous product, down arrow represents here, and it is again in aqueous solution. Now further we can use the term the heat produced or released. Now suppose if we have to write third equation, suppose we take calcium carbonate, it gives calcium oxide plus CO2. Now in this case, this is solid, this is gas. How will the reaction proceed? What is the condition required? Then it says it must be heated. So if the heat is absorbed, then either we write like this, or we can also place heat on this side. Triangle represents heat. Minus on the product side, if we write minus, means it is utilized, it is absorbed. And if we write plus heat, means the heat is released, that is, it is exothermic reaction. So students, this was all about a chemical equation. I think you have understood the chemical equation in steps, and there will be some problem while practicing all these things. So keep on practicing, keep on watching the video frequently. You will have some more informations related to it. And now we will study the next topic.